want to do a comparative audio recording on statements attributed to the figure named Jesus or Yeshua or Yeshu or however you want to refer to him in Jewish law. And I say it in that order because regardless of your view of the historicity of Jesus or who he was, whatever, I'm pointing out the fact that the Gospels were around prior to the completion of the Talmud, and the completion of the Talmud is understood to be around the 6th century, and the Talmud is really the only binding text on the entirety of the Jewish people when it comes to Jewish law. And you have later codes like Rambam's Mishneh Torah, which is really a collection of the conclusions, or what's called the Maskanot of the Talmud of Jewish law. And then you have the Shaharit, which is, and that was around, that was early 1200s. I think he completed it right before he passed in 1204. And then Shaharit, which is basically 90% Rambam, and then the Rosh, which is Rabbeinu Asher, which was the Ashkenazi Maradeatra, I guess, of the northern Spain region, who came from Germany to the northern Spain region, and the Rif, Rabbi Yisachar Fasi. So Maran Yosef of Karo takes these three pillars and makes his code of Jewish law in the 1500s. So these are the codes of Jewish law, books of Jewish law, but these are subsequent to the story of Jesus. So that's why I put it in that order. So the first verse I'm going to quote from the Gospel of Matthew is a statement that is attributed to him, where it says, "And when you pray, do not heap up empty phrases as the pagans do, for they think that they will be heard by their many words." And I want to harp on the last part of that statement. They think they'll be heard by their many words. And I'm really just trying to reference the super extended prayer services, which you can be subjected to, whether it's Rosh Hashanah, Yom Kippur, even some weekday and Shabbat services. Interesting that he makes this statement, but in the Halakha, you really do have this concept of having a short tefillah, meaning the only requirements for prayer in the Halakha is the Shema and the Amidah. Everything else is kind of secondary and dependent on the community's desire and needs. And even then, when you deal with communal prayer, you have a concept in Halakha, in Tractate Berakhot, and in chapter 12, side B, in other places as well. But this is the one source that I'm going to reference, is a concept called tirha de sibura, meaning a burdening of the congregation. And this was something that was prohibited, but for some reason, this is kind of normal Jewish practice, and people kind of expect to have a very long Rosh Hashanah and Yom Kippur service, even though most people really just despise it. And this is from testimony from people that I know. There's a concept of tirha de sibura, meaning you shouldn't burden the congregation in that way, and you really should have a short prayer service, even on a congregational level. Now, if you look at the Siddur of Rambam, his Siddur is very, very short. I have a copy of it. It's 100 pages front and back, and it's for every single day of the year, including weekday, Shabbat, and Hagim, Yamim Noraim, meaning the high holidays for Rosh Hashanah and Kippur. It's very short compared to the Siddurs of today, basically like books and books and books put into one big book. So that's the comparative that I'm going to make there. The word of Jesus, they think they'll be heard with their many words, and the Halakha, which actually kind of prohibits that activity. Second is in the book of Matthew, chapter 6, verse 2, where he said, "Thus, when you give to the needy, don't sound the trumpet before you give, so that you'll be praised by others." So in the Halakha, and I'll just go to Mishneh Torah and Matnot Aniyim, which is basically the laws of giving gifts to the poor, chapter 10, Halakha 8. It previously references the highest form of ṣsedaqa. In Jewish law, ṣsedaqa is mistranslated as charity, but really ṣsedaqa is like something that's obligatory, meaning it's not voluntary like charity, it's an obligation. But the highest level of ṣsedaqa is helping somebody get on their feet, a loan or becoming a partner with them in business. But that's really not giving to the poor. It's basically helping somebody be self-sufficient. So it says this the next lower level, but it's really the first level of giving, because it's somebody who's truly in need and not able to sustain themselves. It is one who gives ṣsedaqa to the poor without knowing to whom he gave it, and without the poor person knowing from whom he received it. For this is an observance of the mitzvah for its own sake. Basically, it says it's a mitzvah lishma, meaning a mitzvah for its own sake. So this is the highest form of truly giving, is in anonymity, according to the Halakha. So it's interesting that there's a similarity there as well. So first, with the shortening of the prayer service, first, or praying with many, many, many words, and then the second is with the halakha of giving in anonymity, or not sounding your trumpet when you give. The third is in Matthew 23, verse 6, where he says, they do all their deeds to be seen by others, for they make their phylacteries, or their tefillin, broad, big, huge tefillin, which, teach his own, potato, but this is the words of Jesus. And now the halakha. If you look at a Rambam tefillin, for example, tefillin are very, very, very small, and this was the practice for many generations prior to I don't know when. So there, take that for what it is. And then the last comparison I'll make is from the Sermon on the Mount, in Matthew chapter 5, where Jesus is it's attributed to him saying, blessed are the peacemakers, for they shall be called sons of God. So he's saying the peacemakers shall be called sons of God. And I want to reference something in the Siddur. It's a collection of pesukim, and it's stuck at the end of the Shaharit service, the morning prayer service of a Sephardic Siddur, where when you basically come to the conclusion, you get to this portion called the Talmud and Mishneh, which is like where you reference learning 2 halachot a day. But then after that, in some synagogues, they stop and then learn a couple halachot and then conclude after learning the halachot with the following. Amar ribi Ḥanina tamidei chachamim marabim shalom ba'alam shneimar v'cho bonaik limudei aranai v'rav shalom bonaik al tikre bonaik ella bonaik yehi shalom behelech shab b'amonotaik l'ma'anachai v'rai davana shalom bach l'ma'an beth Adonai Eloheinu b'achshat avlach וראה בנים לפניך שלום על ישראל שלום רב אוהבי תורתך ואין למו מכשול אדוני עוז לעמו ייתן אדוני יברך את עמו בשלום. So I'm going to go through a few of these pesukim and basically make the point that there's a comparative here, or an expansion of the idea that's found in this statement of Jesus. He said, bless the peacemakers, for they shall be called sons of God. And here it states, Amar ribi Ḥanina. Rabbi Ḥanina basically says that Talmud scholars or Torah scholars will bring great peace in the world. For it says, V'cho banaik limudei aranai v'rav shalom banaik. And that's from Yeshaya chapter 54, verse 13. And it means, and all your children, your sons, your children, shall be, quote unquote, disciples of God. The next statement that's found there, it states, don't say banaik, but say banaik, like builders. So this is a whole expansion on what does it mean to be Talmidei Chachamim, and they're called sons. And so it starts to quote pesukim. So the next pasuk is Yehi Shalom B'Helech Sharve Ba'amonotaik. May there be peace within your ramparts and peace in your citadels. Lema'an achai v're'ai adavra na shalom bach. For the sake of my kin and friends, I pray for your peace. Lema'an beth Adonai Eloheinu abaksha tov lach. For the sake of the house of Adonai, our Elohim, I seek your good. That's from Tehillim 122:9. The prior was from 122:8. The next one is 128:6. ورئي بنيم لفنخا shalom al Yisrael, and live to see your children's children. May all be at peace for Israel. The next is Psalm 119:165. Shalom Rav la'ohavei toratecha ve'en lamo mikshol. Those who love your teaching or your Torah enjoy peace. They encounter no adversity. And the last pasuk is Adonai oz le'amo yiten, Adonai yabarech et amo bashalom. May Adonai grant strength to his people. May Adonai bestow on his people peace. So it's interesting that there's like this elongation of the concept of sons bringing peace, or peacemakers being called sons. This one's longer than usual because of all the pesukim. It's actually one of my favorite portions of the Siddur, and usually in my private learning, when my Seder Limud, I actually recite this at the end of it, just as a reflection and meditation. So I hope you enjoyed, and thank you for listening.